kind of wander down the hill with food.
Yeah.
A nice intimate group tonight. Actuality is the only thing that matters. Actuality is the only power, the only importance. And the nature of actuality is that it is fundamentally and radically different than we think of it as being. However, fortunately, actuality is not concealed. So anyone has the possibility of engaging with it directly and learning the way in which it is what it is and discovering what it is intrinsically, radically other than it is thought to be. This is always the case because actuality is unthinkable. It cannot be to a concept or a thought or an idea or a measurement. It's intrinsically transcendental. It transcends rationality. It transcends resolution. It transcends even findability. But of course, it never goes away, so you don't need to find it.
The end to searching.
Well, you can search all you want, but you won't find anything. You'll never find anything other than where you started with.
So. It's interesting that the end to searching, is because you can't find anything versus that you think you can find something.
Search, don't search.
Yeah.
I like a bumper sticker.
I know. I
T-shirt.
Because I thought she said surf. So I was like, yeah, surf that actuality.
You open for questions now.
Sure.
So,
think before you ask.
No, better stop thinking before you ask.
Ask
Where
away.
does the peanut go?
I'm all ears.
So this thing about not searching, right? So there's nothing to find, right? Except this, and there is a sort of immediate sense of sort of some turmoil or anxiousness or like this energy moving, and it's not like that ever exists necessarily, or it's not like so there's always this sort of
Yes,
turmoil.
but this is intrinsically in turmoil with itself, an ongoing dynamic conflict with itself. That's another aspect of its unresolvability. The very essence of what this is confusion. It doesn't come to a resolution or a point or a finality or an end or anything like that. It's ongoingly, it's like an eternal question mark with no answer. It's water continually rushing off a cliff and it's a waterfall and never landing anywhere. To wax poetic.
But there is a feeling of tension, right? And there is eventually like a relaxation of that tension.
There's always degrees of tension. There's always degrees of relaxation. You never come to final relaxation. You never come to absolute tension.
But what about this fuck it thing? Where so there's a point in which a person eventually sort of relaxes and says fuck it, or
right. If you're wise, you'll say fuck it and then relax. let's say there's a non-fuck it state and there's a fuck it state. Let's suppose that the non-fuck it state is predicated on the there's going to be something defined, some resolution, something that's worth hanging in there for. It is post that when you see that there's absolutely no possibility of any resolution or achieving anything, so fuck it. It isn't an aspiration, it's just the resultant point of view when you see what this is. Let's say that's one way of putting it.
Well, what is it that says fuck it or whatever?
Well, what is it that does anything? That's the question. If we can't find it, you can't resolve it. It's this itself. Here, and you can't find what it is. So it's you, and it's everything else, and it's the universe, and it's the world, and it's God, and it's the devil, and it's that shit. It's whatever. So you know, you can pick your favorite caption to the picture. The picture doesn't care.
What if I'm sort of I'm doing the noticing with that, right?
Sure.
And I'm just sort of feeling into that tension that
Yeah. Okay.
and then so I just feel into that and or like I feel into it and,
what would the or be?
or
What would what would an or be?
an or would be ignoring it or just being up or
Does that actually do anything? Does that make the tension? Does that make you stop feeling the tension and stop seeing what happens? And seeing what happens is a given doctrine, isn't it?
but I can feel it or see it more or more consciously or
Doesn't make any difference. Just a different perspective on the same thing. There's always degrees of tension. You know, you shoot up with morphine and you just totally just like, and the tension sort of goes way down, but it never goes away. It's always irresolution, and you can't not see it, whatever you're pretending to do, and you will see what happens because that's all that ever happens. How do you not see what happens? Try and make it go away.
but there's a part of me that's like, well, okay, if I do it the right way or if I look at it intensely enough or close enough or in the right way or whatever, that it will go away.
Try. Good luck. Maybe you're the one finally, out of all space and time, you're the one that can do that. Have at it. Hey, who's to say? Maybe it's unresolvable for everyone but you.
And it's not like, oh, okay, I'll right perspective to have on it.
There's no right perspective.
Or the most effective perspective. Or
There's no effective. What does effective means? Achieving something. What do you want to achieve?
loosening equanimity.
Say that again.
A loosening or an equanimity.
Loosening or an equanimity.
Or like a
loosening is upon there being some non-looseness. Is there any non-looseness you can find? Some non-looseness. Where would you find it? What would it be made of? There may be apparent tightness present, but the tightness is present very loosely. Loose is a euphemism here for spontaneously.
Isn't there a way in which the mental state or a certain perspective manufactures tension or perception of tension?
Seem to magnify it, but it doesn't actually create it, and can't actually destroy it. The operative word there is seem. This way, it's possible to learn to artfully be with energy in a way that maximizes your enjoyment of it. How about that?
And then I want to say how.
Be artful.
Okay.
It's not something that you can do mechanically. You can do by following certain steps or certain schematics or certain formula. It's like saying, how do I make beautiful music? Well, here's this instrument. Use it artfully. We'll take the instrument and I'll use it maybe, but it won't be very artful, I suppose.
So you experiment and practice.
Well, maybe yes, maybe no. You do it artfully. Maybe you just fall into artfulness. It's down to your particular skill set. It's down to your particular nature. Everyone's unique.
Right. So there's a sense of tension, and there's a way in which one can feel into it at different levels, right? So one can feel into it at an emotional level, right? And then one can call it certain emotions or certain.
Sure. You can pretend to qualify it in various ways. And you will discover it's an infinite dimensional spectrum, unanalyzable, unresolvable actuality. Something only seems to be a certain way superficially. When you experientially go be with it more intimately, you discover that what seemed to be a certain way is actually an infinitely broad range, continuous modes, each of which is itself an infinitely broad range of infinite modes, and each of those itself, it's like fractal. You can go into it forever, and all you find is difference. All you find is variety. All you find is alternatives. So you start with tension, and you go into it, and you're not gonna. You end up anywhere. You end up everywhere.
What does it mean to go into it, right? Rather than just superficially relate to it?
Intimately engage with it experientially. Or to put it very simply, just feel it. and it does the rest because everything by its very nature continually morphs. So it seems to be a certain way is continually and infinitely becoming something else, becoming ultimate. Present conditions are continually morphing into future conditions.
Something rather delightful about that.
The slipperiness of actuality it is delightful because it's never actually any way because it's already something else, and something else and something else forever and forever. It's continually slipping away.
And we're constantly in fear of oh, it's going to be like this forever. But it's morphine.
Well, it is like this forever.
Oh, that bit's.
No, this is.
This, and that.
There's only one thing to talk about, so what we're talking about is clear. Unspecifiable, but clear. This is perfectly clear, isn't it? I mean, this that is here, it's perfectly clear that this is here and that this is this. You try and say anything more about it, you put your foot in your mouth.
And when you say it's precisely the way it is?
Yeah, it's very precisely, exactly here, that is this way. And the way that it is exactly this way that it is. Exactly. There's nothing vague about it whatsoever. Of course, having said that, the exactness of the way that it is slippery. It's infinitely unresolvable. Findable. But it is precisely that, and precisely the way that it is that. And because it's precisely that, always, it's discoverable.
And just because it's undefinable doesn't mean you don't have to. You shouldn't look for it.
Absolutely. You can see very precisely that it's unfindable. You can find absolutely and precisely and self-verifyingly that it's not findable. You can find that. You can. It's not just. That's not just cute philosophy or silly words. Although it is cute philosophy and silly words, but it's not just that. It's actually profoundly true. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful fact. This actually is the way it is, and it's not hidden. So just look and see what is here. How is it here? It's not even something that you don't already know. Everyone already knows everything about. Typically we just have tons and tons of Baroque overlays involving narrations and interpretations and cause and effect and objective worlds and incarnation and all these fantasies that have that are completely unfindable. It's completely findable. You can find this exactly and define the way that it is. In fact, you can't lose it, but you can't find it bottom of it because it is bottomless. But you can't get to the bottom of the fact that it's bottomless. You can't find it, but you can find exactly and precisely that you can't find it. Realization of that. Realization is the precise discovery that there's no realization because there's nothing to realize. Wouldn't you say?
No, I would say that there is something to realize and you've already realized it.
Well, same thing.
Same thing.
Sitting here.
So then, how is it that you go into deepening realization?
Because this continually deepens. Its very nature is to continually deepen. And when you see that that's the case, then obviously that's what is happening. Even before you see it's the case, but you may not recognize it. You may think you're busy trying to navigate tensions. Find equanimity.
The rabbit hole goes on forever.
Yeah, it's free fall. There's no bottom. Water is continually plummeting off the cliff, and there's no bottom. It never hits anything. It's going. It's the going, not the arriving. And what you arrive at is this fact of continual going. That the destination is that there's no destination. This is the sole destination. Destination is the starting point of particular. That's where you started, and that's where you're going to end up. And you never go any, and in between, that's where you stay.
That's where you are.
All this churning for no butter.
But is there a realization of subtler and subtler ways that you tend to hold on, and then you let go of those?
Oh, absolutely. Well, not and then you let go of them. There's endless revelation of endless subtleties forever. Too much because you can't pin down exactly what they are because they're unresolvable. Which does not make them any less true, any less valuable.
People think, well, eventually I'll arrive at happiness, or I'll arrive at some sort of cities or something like that. Ability to control my environment.
Cities are present, and happiness, you arrive at happiness when you give up looking for happiness. Not through not through aspiring to give up happiness, but and that's quite a relief. Imagine how good the donkey feels when it realizes that the carrot hanging on the string in front of it is never going to get to it. Thank God. I don't need to chase this damn carrot anymore. Relief. Why didn't you tell me long ago? I get the carrot today. It's just there hanging. I can see it. Day.
What is it that manufactures the carrot? It's not like
It's just like Alpo. Makes its own gravy. Makes its own carrot. The very nature of this, it endlessly lusts after itself. Adores reality, and is completely intoxicated with it. It's continually trying to chase after itself.
because it can't get enough of itself, it produces what seems to be.
When it's immature, when it's immature, it thinks it can't get enough of itself. It thinks if it just keeps looking, then it's going to carrot or get to the bottom of things. But after a few endless eons of, it begins to either wisen up or just get tired. And then it finally recognizes itself. Oh, I've been looking in a mirror. I have it already. This is it. The chase.
It's the elbow.
Peter,
Hey, Justin, how you doing?
hey, I have a question. So, people have the tendency of being like separated from others and the nature of everything by like things, stuff like that,
Mhm.
the immaturity in itself and being held back by the bondage of self and the feeling of others and giving up and all that stuff that
Mhm.
we do. But like you said, like life is free and so vast and
Yeah.
uncalculated with perfection.
Yes.
So like tell me a little bit about like the bridging of
Yes. The main thing is the freedom's not the way you expect it. When you look for the freedom, it's really hard to find, but that's because you expect it in terms of conditions. In other words, you think something you expect, or your freedom's going to be free from something else that you're trying to avoid. When you approach it like that, you're just like a rat on a treadmill. You're just never going to get anywhere. The real freedom is the freedom of the end. There's no boundaries to things. There's no walls. You can't tell what anything is. Every day is completely new and unexpected and surprising. Instant is completely new and unexpected. And it doesn't. Conditions come and go predictably, and you can't do much about that. But they all come and go in this freedom, and that freedom is reliable. You can count on that. Count on conditions because they come and go. One day you'll be healthy, another day you'll be sick. One day you'll have good luck, another day you'll have bad luck. But that stuff isn't quite so important when you see the context that it happens in of this openness, the ongoing inevitable flow of life, inevitable flow of your being, which is not just poetry, it's not just metaphor, but it's for real. It's big, it's huge, it's powerful.
That's good because my self-imposed limitation from my perspective, trying to break beyond that.
Sure.
Just the practice and act of trying to do that and letting myself let go, and then just trying to just dream and just enjoy it.
Mhm.
And what you do said, beautiful. And what you believe, you go out on that limb and you try, and you make it a practice of every day trying to free yourself, enjoy and appreciate, and change yourself. Then I do believe what you said that it's true that we can find that.
Yeah.
We can find what we need, what we desire in life.
It's perfectly okay to try to improve yourself and all that. But all that trying to improve yourself happens in the context of this freedom. Improve yourself and then you get the freedom. It's here. The freedom is just the flow of life. And you can notice that sometimes it's harder to notice than other times. So it's always available to notice. Of course, if you're striving for self-improvement or not, that's all great. But you already have the freedom, and you can draw on that and touch into that to whatever degree you can, anytime at all. It's no matter how horrible the situation is, you can always dream. And dreams are pure freedom. That's always here. Good to see you.
So if misery and happiness are the same thing, we dislike misery so much.
Well, you don't. Your personality does. You're what's doing it.
But why
It's like when you're in a dream and there's something horrible happening over here and there's something wonderful happening over here, and you're like trying to fight your way from the horrible thing to the wonderful thing. Well, fine, but that's about the character in the dream. You're the dream, but you really are the dreamer. There, you're putting the wonderful there, putting the horrible there, putting the character there that's choosing the one over the other. You aren't the character in the dream. That's the personality. That's the persona.
But why does the personality dislike misery so much?
Because it sucks.
Because I'm noticing that I know that
That's why they call it misery. It's miserable.
I mean, I know that misery. Like I'm noticing that misery is just a flavor, and it's just this.
Of course.
And yet,
see, the personality has a nature that prefers certain flavors. Let's say some people are masochists and they prefer painful, awkward situations. Let's say some people are dominant and they prefer to be lording it over somebody. Let's say some people are artistic and they prefer to be creating. Or insecure and they prefer to be in a highly structured situation so they feel better. So all that's fine. Just the energy preference of the innate nature of the energy system of the personality. They are. That's just an aspect of the manifestation of the personality, which is it's like a subsystem.
so there's really no getting around that.
No, but you are around it. You already are around it.
I mean, beyond it.
Oh, wait, there's not necessarily a way of turning it off, but it comes and goes, so it turns itself off. Personality is not particularly important. The personality is small, and you are vast. When you see that, then you stop worrying about the personality. The personality still has its nature and will run around doing what it's doing, I suppose, for this incarnation or whatever. I mean, you'll find out. It recedes in importance or in urgency because when you don't identify with that, it's your personality. It's like it's like your left hand. Your left hand. My left hand is me, but it's not a particularly important part of me. It's a small subsystem of me. Personality is like that. When people are ignorant, they think that they are their personalities, and then of course it really matters and it's very important, and all the issues, the personality issues, are very urgent. But it's not. The personality is just a little subsystem, just like the personality that gets manufactured and projected in a dream is not the dreamer. It's a version of the dreamer, but it's a small subsystem. The personality that's manifested in this incarnation, let's say, is a projection. It's a small subsystem, a projection of the actual being. It's vast, and which is not constrained by the personality, and the personality goes through all its machinations within the self, within the true being.
So the resistance to misery is just the personality.
Yeah. The personalities are complex. It's personalities have a very specific nature and orientation.
So it does what it does, and there's nothing to worry about with it.
Yeah, but it's not that it's mechanistic or anything, or it doesn't evolve, but it's still just not particularly important.
So you can acknowledge it and allow it to pass. Is what you're saying. Acknowledge the personality and the.
Well, you don't need to allow it to pass. You just see what it is, and then it goes its way. You can't stop it from going its way. But when you see what it is and see its actual context, you see, because it's a small subsystem of the actual being. It's not you.
Looking at it, we can add it versus
Yeah.
being it.
Yeah, the personality is an object that shows up in experience. It's not the experiencer. Body is an object that shows up in experience. It's not the self. It's not the experiencer. It's peculiar that things happen to be the way they are, but they aren't really that way because you can't actually pin down and resolve exactly how they are. So they seem to be the way they are more thoroughly the less you look at it. And the more you look at it, the more complex and subtle and weird and nonlinear they get. A snap superficial judgment of somebody is much more sharp than really getting to know them, let alone yourself. The more you study yourself, the less you'll know who you are. Or let's say the less you'll be able to pin down who you
I noticed my personality is you can call it my character, like how people say I'm a good judge of character.
Mhm.
But like a character is like something that's in a play. Character.
Yeah.
So it's like, but I noticed that my character has been often attributed to my feelings and the way that I perceive my limitations or how far I can get or what I am and how people or how I view myself because of that. But I noticed that it's all been created based off of the way I feel towards external things.
Right.
So that proves in itself that it's not the real me.
Yeah.
I feel off of it. I spent so much time playing along, playing into this character that has been holding me hostage.
Yeah. But you're young, and you're getting wise. Now you're aging a little bit, and you're getting more mature, and you can see that, and that's great. That's fabulous. And then that's how it is. As you get more mature, it gets more obvious, and you have more and more insights as to the actual perspective of things, and you're not so susceptible to getting sucked into, the things that when you were younger, you were more vulnerable to. You get swept up in it.
Are we here to evolve spiritually or really not at all? Or are we just here to just be here? I mean, what you know what I mean? Like, are we?
Well, you're just here to be here, and the other things are all spin doctoring. What do you mean by that?
We're sitting here with you, we're having this conversation.
Well, that's describable in those terms, but what do you think? Could you actually describe what's happening here?
Conversation.
What's a conversation? Yeah, but if you look closely at what it is, what's actually happening, you can't say. We're used to thinking we know what the words we're using refer to, and they refer to specific actualities that correspond to that. You look more closely at what's happening and how it works. It's much stranger and more complex and more subtle than that. How does conversation happen? You make sounds and I make sounds. How does that work? What happens?
Totally noticed this watching a foreign film the other night, and I just stopped reading the subtitles, and then it's just
Yeah.
It's like still going on.
Yeah.
I don't need to actually look at the subtitles to have the experience.
But there's so much because again, it's a rich sea of qualities that are present, and the sounds that that apparent people are making to each other is a very small part of that zone, of that whole stew. And all those qualities are present concurrently, and that's what's really happening.
So a lot of energy goes into, a lot of intelligence goes into forming comprehension. And
No, actually, see, words and comprehension happen very spontaneously. We pretend we're putting a lot of energy into trying to figure it out, but that's a pretense, because actually it happens spontaneously. Okay, well, let me see, what should I say? You know, it's all a pretense, it's all a game. In actual fact, everything happened completely spontaneously.
so this idea of that it takes energy to do things, that's just an abstraction.
Of course, everything happens spontaneously. You can't stop it from happening.
If we didn't make it harder than it really was, then we wouldn't be sitting here right now listening to
True words. But you don't have to make it hard. I mean, ways, and it's weird in every way, but at the same time, it's only a problem if you think it's a problem. If you're trying to struggle with it, if you think it needs to be different, melt into it and say, yeah, this is what it is. This is what's happening, and it's always been happening, and it's going to continue happening. The next moment's going to happen, and more weird shit's going to happen. And what? What's the big deal? It does itself.
Thank you. We'll try to do that.
Peter, what's your favorite book?
My favorite book's a book called The Peripheral by William Gibson.
It's shooting to the #1 bestseller on Amazon.
Is it?
After tonight.
It's probably up there already, regardless of anything I might say.
Your favorite spiritual writings are like Nisargadatas?
No.
What about your favorite color?
Oh, no,
I bet we can get a response.
Your favorite is the Gospel of Psalms?
No, there's not very many good spiritual writings. The Basic Space of Phenomena by Longchenpa.
Boring.
Oh.
That's only because I had to sit through like a 3-hour whatever ceremony for it. So
No, the ceremony's stupid. I
That
said
ruined
the
it.
book is good.
that ruined it for me.
I wouldn't sit through it. I wouldn't sit through 30 seconds of a ceremony.
Does mushrooms or stuff of that nature, is that helpful in your gaining of understanding?
It can be, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it shows you different perspectives.
Yeah.
It's not that what you see there is any truer than what you're normally used to seeing, so it gives you a fresh take on things.
Yeah. I'm more of a responsible guy. I'm not the kind of guy who likes to get drunk.
Yeah. But again, like you say, microdosing, just to shift your perspective a little bit can be really valuable.
Yeah.
Just because normalcy can be numbing.
Yeah.
You know, if you see things a certain way all the time, you can kind of get numb and just sort of settle in that and sort of get hypnotized into thinking things are always like that, and then you sort of
Yeah. Television makes us passive.
yeah,
No.
it makes you numb.
No, like it makes you go to see car explosion, and then you don't even feel like if you saw a car explosion in real life, you're like ah, but on the TV you can just see it and then like not feel anything. It's like it
You can
makes
do that in real life too.
us-
You know, not just drugs, but any kind of putting yourself in an unusual or an unusual context can be really useful. Just to shock yourself a little bit out of your complacency, out of normalcy. Fresh take on things.
What about like those gurus that perform miracles all the time, like Sai Baba? Is that just mystifying people? Is it just
Well, it's not just anything. A lot of it's fakery, and the rest of it is miracles. Miracles are miracles. What about it?
well? There's something that seems to make certain phenomena, certain events more miraculous than others.
No,
And,
that's the fallacy.
but is it just like there's some events that seem to shift the perspective more than others do?
They shift the perspective by revealing how different things can be. Again, it shatters the illusion of normalcy. That can happen. Pinot could make things move without touching them. I've experienced that, but it's unimportant in itself. The importance is in seeing that something that one considers to be impossible is actually, possibility is conceptual. Possibility is a matter of belief systems, a matter of interpretive framework. In actual fact, you never know what's happening or how it happens or what's going to happen.
And what isn't a miracle?
That's the point. There's
I mean,
nothing.
it's like
Everything is.
nothing that is.
This is a miracle. How is this
Yeah.
here? What puts this here? This instant right now. A wimpy rhetorical, absurd philosophical question, but really, here this is. How could this be happening? What is this? How could this be? How could it be being perceived? Intelligence. How could there be words happening and seemingly meaningful ideas associated? How can this happen? It's inconceivable. Everything is equally miraculous because it doesn't have an explanation. It doesn't have a process or this happens because of that. There's no that. This just happens out of nothing, out of nowhere. It's just proof. It's like science. Well, the universe has been around for years, and one day there was a Big Bang, and then ever since then there's all this elaboration and blah blah. Okay, wait, back up a second. One day there was a Big Bang.
End of story.
It's like what? I mean,
Like a fairy tale.
well, it's a miracle. It's completely inconceivable, unexplainable, without any context whatsoever. And this has no context. All known context is this. It doesn't have. It's in. It doesn't have something it comes from. It's just proof.
Textless.
Everything is contextless. Exactly. We're experts at dreaming up context and imagine they exist, but all of that's actually hypothetical.
So, Pinot would move things without touching them. Was it for any sort of purpose?
No, I mean I don't know. Not that I was aware.
It wasn't to help shift your perspective or anyone else's. It wasn't.
Well, it might have been that. I don't know. He didn't tell me.
There was no why for him doing that.
I don't know. I don't know. He didn't tell me. I mean, why are you sitting here? Why am I sitting here? Yeah, I'm out of here. The bars are still open.
Was it his personality showing up?
Huh?
Was it?
No.
He's in it for money.
Showing off. Show me the money.
It's wild because the more you play in the basic space phenomena, it's like you can do anything you want if you really.
You can
I mean,
you
it's
can
like
do
whatever.
Yeah, you can do anything you can
run
do.
for president
Certainly.
if you want.
Sure. Evidently.
Right.
Evidently, even
Prove
fools and
that, yeah.
assholes can run
Yeah,
for president.
I mean, who needs to take money?
Can anyone but fools
Yeah.
and assholes run for president?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know. If only.
Bernie almost got it.
Come the revolution, man.
Is it like there's an open invitation to accept and embrace all sorts of strangeness, all sorts of weirdness, all sorts of whatever arises.
Well, there's no reason not to. Whether you accept it or not, whatever is present is present. So acceptance is kind of a pretense. It's computer. What does that mean? It's here. Presence is a done deal. So what does acceptance mean? This acceptance is just spin doctoring. It's posturing.
In terms of practicality and energy flows, it's more useful.
What's more useful?
Accepting and embracing whatever weirdness is arising. Whatever uncomfortability, because the norm is to fight against it, right? To say, oh, well, that's wrong in the way it is.
Well, if you fight against something, if you think things are a certain way or need to be a certain way, you're just putting yourself in jail. You're locking yourself up. You see that everything is actuality is actual. It's not a matter of accepting it. There's nothing to accept. You just see that it is here, and you see that it is the way that it is, and that way that it is entirely unpredictable and unanticipatable. So you have basically a completely level field. Everything is the same as everything else. A value judgment in terms of this is good, this is bad, this is better, this is worse, this is likely, this is unlikely. Whatever happens, happens, and that's the only thing you know for sure. So that gives you a reality check, and then you're in a position to work with it to whatever extent you can, unbiasedly, over your own prejudices or your own expectations.
It's like I want to keep on saying but, which I usually do. Right? But what's going on with that? Hard to say, but.
Well, you tell me. What's going on in you when you feel a desire? What does it seem like?
I don't know. It's like with the mind. It's like, oh, can't be that way.
Actuality will never agree with the mind, and the mind will never be able to agree with actuality even if it pretends to.
And then there's
because what's here, any thought you have about it is an oversimplification. It's not the actuality itself. Things are infinitely complicated and infinitely strange and infinitely multidimensional and stuff. It doesn't deal with things that way. The mind deals with this, that, and this. So the mind won't agree. The mind can't agree with actuality because it doesn't know what to agree with, because it can't find this or that or this. So what it usually does is just ignores that and pretends to anyway. And then you're off in your thoughts. You're off just relating to your concepts, and then you're as we say in the trade. The mind can't get this. The mind will never agree to this. And when you see that, the mind doesn't have to agree. It's never going to agree, so that's cool. You just give it, it's a given. Okay, my mind's always going to think what it's going to think, and it's always going to be arguing. Okay, cool, no problem. But what's that have to do with this? This is not mental phenomena. This is actual phenomena. The mental is just what you think about it, and you can think anything you want about it, and it's all going to be stupid. So who cares? I mean, come on, me, Einstein, thoughts are stupid, but actuality is not stupid. Actuality is not anything. It's inconceivable. It does not need to get a handle on this. It pretends to and wants to, and it continues to pretend to, and proud of itself that it does, but it's all bullshit and bravado, because the mind doesn't touch this. It's not a rational phenomenon. This doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Yes, you can't handle it. It's too weird. You need to describe it because you know it intimately. You are it. And so you realize you're crazy. Your mind and you and your experience go their separate ways, but they always have. There's this crazy voice arguing with itself inside your head, and that's cool because it's never going to stop. So who cares? But meanwhile,
what is the experiencer? The experiencer just is this.
of course, the experiencer can't be found. The experiencer is a theory. The theory says that because there's experience, there must be an experiencer. That's a logical construction. That's suppose because there's a verb, there must be a noun. Or because there's an object, there must be a subject. That's just according to the rules of grammar. That's not according to actuality. Who says? It must be experience. Why does it have to be an experiencer? It's just a theory that there's an experiencer. It just appears. Why does it have to appear to something or someone or something? It just appears. Okay, cool, it disappears. Period. End of story.
So
Very simple.
is this mental craziness?
Of course.
The mind's.
No, there's experience, so there must be an experiencer, and there must be an object experience, and there must be a.
And the mind
Says
must
it.
be the experiencer.
Huh?
And the mind says that the mind must.
Well,
be
the
experiencer.
mind is very arrogant. It'll say all kinds of things and try to claim ownership of all kinds of things. But mind isn't anything. Mind is just the presence of thoughts, and thoughts are all bullshit anyway, so it doesn't matter. and the thoughts unceasingly will occur, and that doesn't matter either. Just don't give it a whole lot of credence.
And a feeling of anxiousness that's just like a.
It's twofold. Anxiousness is an actual experiential texture of the unresolvability of actuality. But the mind tries to turn that into a story of, oh, there's a problem here. And then the emotions respond to that story the same way the emotions respond to any story. If you go see a movie that's a tearjerker, your emotions start begin to cry, having the tears on your face. Right? Because emotions are reacting to a story. It's not happening. You're sitting in a room looking at patterns of light on a screen, right? There's nothing to get teary about. But the mind follows the story, and then the emotions follow the story and react as if it was so. And so you can feel emotionally anxious as a result of a story that there's some problem here. The story may arise because of a feeling of weirdness. Mostly the feeling of weirdness is here because this is weird. And there's no implication. There's no problem of the fact that it's weird. If there's a problem, we would be very, very, very seriously fucked, because that's all there is. I mean, is there anything not weird? Are humans not weird? You know, is politics not weird? Is life forms not weird? Are planets not? Planets are these big honking spheres and in nothingness. Nothing's holding but there's a. Is that not weird? They go around each other. Why? Is that not weird? They explode sometimes. They crash into each other. Is that not weird? Look at time. Time goes at infinitely different scales. On the scale of a neutrino, a second is like a century. On the scale of Pluto, you know, a century is like a second. You ever watch like like say a hummingbird? You ever watch hummingbirds? You see the hummingbird's going. Hummingbirds not doing that. Hummingbirds going. They've been around, and it sees the humans, and humans are all like. And why is these creatures are so slow? They must be stupid or something. The hummingbird is just going like that, but we look at the hummingbird and go, time frame. Time doesn't have a fixed.
Can you do that again?
You can even catch it in reruns. I mean, how weird is that? Weird is what we got. If weird was a problem, the really weirdest thing is anything can seem not weird. Normalcy is the weirdest thing in the world. Dullness is the weirdest thing in the world. Boredom is the weirdest thing in the world. How can this not be like mind-bogglingly exciting? Because it's just so weird and so completely surprising and so completely unpredictable. So, life isn't so good, you know. I'm getting kind of tired. Maybe I'll wonder if anything's good on TV tonight. Any good reruns? How can that happen? How can normalcy happen? It's really weird. In the face of this unceasing, absolute, naked, raging weirdness.
I have a hypothesis.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain kind of like the same energy, like something that gave us joy at one time. We like use it too much, then we lose the joy. You know what I mean? It doesn't bring us the same satisfaction, happiness as it once did.
Yeah.
And I think that you try to like do the same things all the time, say the same things, it becomes our personality and whatnot. And taste of what we will do that day or what we define ourselves to be able to do. And then we basically use up all that energy, or like it doesn't really bless us like with the same kind of new energy.
Yeah.
We don't perceive that way. But then, like you said, like if I like did something different, like go and get a cup of tea, all of a sudden I'm like 007. Like I guarantee you, I'd be like super cool, you know, super different. But I've been used up this energy. Now it doesn't make me feel good.
Right.
Now I'm seeing anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it can seem like that, but the problem, what really happens there, is we don't notice how different everything is. The description they say is the same. The actual experience is different. Every time you have a cup of coffee, it tastes different than every other cup of coffee you've ever had. It's just another cup of coffee. God, I'm so bored of this. You know, it's like you're not letting yourself. Experience is not made of generalities. It's made of details. It's made of specifics. And if you look at the details, everything is new, everything's exciting, everything's unpredictable and unexpected. of a sandwich you've ever had. It's never tasted like any other bite of any other sandwich you've ever had in your life. That's a fact. I mean, that's not just theory. It's really like that. And if you notice that, you'll be bored because everything is like such a surprise, you know. Every instant, you don't know exactly what you're going to see. You don't know exactly what you're going to hear. You don't know exactly what you're going to think or feel. It's all just this unending surprise, and it never repeats. But we don't notice that because we get dull. It's just sitting around a room talking with a bunch of people. Kind of, it's dull, you know. And but that's a generality. Generalities are dull. The details are not. They're scintillating. They're surprising. They're vital. Of specifics is not made of generalities. Life is made of details. Details are pure surprise. You know, exactly what you're seeing right now, you've never seen any of it before, and you're never going to see it again. The exact arrangement of these colors and these lights and these shapes in exactly this position, this angle, it's already gone. It's true every instant of every aspect of the experiential field. It's very, very obvious. But it's not fashionable to notice that because we get distracted with what Trump just said, or you know what we're think we're having, or all of this narration and stories, and then we're not paying attention to this amazing vitality and newness that is constantly occurring.
Do you think that people are disappointed in themselves for their lack of ability to connect to like the source or whatever?
I think most people don't even know.
Yeah.
I think most people think they're just stuck with what they're stuck with, and they don't even there were any other option, or any alternatives, or any other possibilities. Unfortunately.
Would you say that people that are dealing with generalities are not presently dealing with thoughts? Really be feeling this moment and what's really going on in their lives in this moment.
Sure. Yeah, generalities are concepts, are thoughts. Although interestingly, thought itself, reality, thought itself is a specific, and the actual presence of this thought stream, the presence of the energy of thought is spontaneous and fresh and new always. But again, we don't usually attend to. We usually attend to the ideas and the words and the narrative, and then we get all of a sudden we're in generality.
Can you really attend to the texture? You can't. I'm either in the thought or I'm remembering a thought and maybe remembering the texture. But thinking, that's the reality, and I'm not noticing the texture of the thought.
Right. Though thought
It's
is
original.
Yeah. Thought is the most difficult because we're so used to, as you say, we're so used to getting seduced and caught up in the narrative. It's possible to notice the texture of thought. And again,
when it's unfolding, it's possible.
Yeah, because thought is an actual presence. If you're thinking, that means something is present in your experiential field. Some quality is present. Just like you know you're seeing because there's something present in your field of vision. You know you're thinking because there's some energy presence present in the field of the mind. And mind you, that energy presence is usually a carrier for concepts, and then we ignore the energy and go right to the concept. But it is this thought. You know you're thinking because something is present, and we usually think, oh, the words are present. the words are like the thought itself is like a carrier wave, and the words are like riding on that. But it's tricky because again, ordinarily that's not our normal mode. Usually we don't do that. Usually we go right to the words, right to the concept.
It always seems like to me that I wake up out of a thought, and then I realize I was thinking.
Mm.
But I never caught myself being and creating an original thought. I mean, YMCA, I can do that and notice the texture of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like figuring a math problem out. I can't notice the texture of the thought as I haven't been able to at this point.
It's hard. Probably a good way to practice exploring that would be when you're not really lost in thought per se, you're not thinking too hard. Like if you're letting yourself look at something and so say you're attending to some other experience, like you feel the vision, thinking. But even if you're not thinking, there'll be some energy presence in the mind field. There'll be some energy presence there. Just like if you're not lost in thought, but there's still something present in the field of vision, even if you're not attending to it. And in that case, it may be easier to notice the actual texture of what's present as thought rather than the conceptual. In other words, you sort of feel it when you're not really paying attention to it, when it's sort of turned down a bit. So then even if you may subsequently get caught up in the content, but exploring this stuff is always an art form. I mean, you play with it because, again, we typically have a lifetime of having been brainwashed into doing it a certain way, and so exploring alternatives often takes a little by hook or by crook kind of thing, where you have to try and feel your way into it.
I think it's funny how birds and squirrels and stuff have such small brains, agility, and like bird nest building abilities.
Yeah.
And they're just going off of natural instincts.
Yeah, it's incredible. Well, look at things like
brains are so small.
Look at things like amoebas and one-celled organisms. There's these things. I don't know if you ever look at a microscope or see movies about that. There's these critters. They're so small you cannot see it with your naked eye. You can't even see it with a magnifying glass. You need a huge honking microscope. They're tiny. They don't have a brain. They don't have anything. They're one cell, and they can swim around. They can find food, and reproduce. How does that happen? It's like.
So what's our excuse with our big old brain?
Yeah, that's what I said.
So I don't think we need it.
Yeah, really.
We worked that one out.
Ask him.
I wonder if amoebas have pheromones that guide them to their mates. I wonder if amoebas have some kind of a sexual.
Well, who knows? But obviously, they're very responsive and very engaged with their environment and their functionality.
If you find like amoeba dating cartoons or something.
I'm sure they're out
Is the
there.
right amoeba for me or not? Let's see.
Amoeba matching.
I think probably the right amoeba
Amoeba
is the
match.
first amoeba that comes along.
I just heard about this dating service called Maple Match for all the people who want to leave America if Trump is elected. Get a Canadian.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right on.
Canada is
I might,
America,
I
really.
might want to check that out.
They're like the people that stay, or they're gonna need to.
They're gonna stay.
There's probably a whole other group of people that refuse elected. Oh, it's something. There's a lot of people pissed off at anybody. No matter who you are, there's going to be people pissed off at you.
I'm noticing all the different colors of black in this room. Probably because you specialize in black.
Nice and black.
What do you like? You seem to like it, but that's a hypothesis. You could wear
I am at the moment, aren't I?
it. Yeah. So it's like,
Their color now.
yeah,
Black,
but
black is a new black.
it is, yeah.
Old black too, I guess.
I've been telling people that have gray hair, I've been telling them, hey, gray is the new black. To make it feel good. But,
Well, in my case, gray is the new brown, but I hear you.
she said they designed the walls to match your favorite color.
It's nice having everything in the world being done for me.
Sometimes I do.
I wish I did a better job, though.
Sometimes I do feel like that. Like
Sure.
the whole world. I mean, you're all here. I mean, it's for me to enjoy and
Yeah.
building, and I just feel like the whole world is just.
Well, it seems like that. I mean, all of this rich experience that unendingly refreshes itself for your benefit, for your enjoyment, for your lusciousness, for your edification and entertainment. It's hard to argue with.
Yeah, it's done to me because I say to people, what should I do with myself? I'm getting old. They say, I've heard twice, they say, do what you love. And I'm like, man, that's like, why didn't I?
Why didn't I think of that? Oh, just me, I like to do. Oh, okay. What a good idea. What, am I an idiot?
Do you have any hints on that? It may be a ludicrous question, but you know, being open to what you really do love showing up. You know, and
Yeah.
there's possibilities and openness to nothing really. I mean, I'm enjoying and savoring every moment to a great degree, but I'm still open to Lay said, be careful what you ask for. He said, I could do more, you know, and then all that happened.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, I think that it doesn't seem to be the case that there can be unlimited access to anything at a whim, unfortunately. But it also does seem that if something really is valuable to you or attractive to you in your life to a greater degree on different levels, but it may or may not show up on some particular level. You know, in other words, experience happens on all different sorts of levels simultaneously. There's experience, and then there's, you know, there's thought experience, and there's dream experience, and there's all sorts of other flavors of experience, and it's all equally real. You know, and manifestly, there may be some apparent limitations in terms of what happens, let's say, sensorially. Or not. I mean, you know, it depends on the individual. And some people seem to have a talent for being able to attract or being able to find themselves in certain things that they may like, or not for that matter, and not others. And then other people, different sets of things. You know, I mean, I think people are each individual person is very, very unique in terms of their sort of talents and their abilities to, well, to function in all different sorts of ways, obviously, but also in particular to have good, let's say, good fortune or luck in being able to, in certain contexts or certain kinds of engagements that they like. So in short, you know, have at it and good luck. But I do think that you, even if you're relatively stymied in terms of having a certain kind of engagement you would enjoy, some degree of engagement out of enjoying that in other ways if you're open to it and if you let yourself enjoy it. In other words, even if it doesn't show up in some way that you would like, it can still show up in other ways, maybe obliquely or subtly or what have you. and you can still have enjoyment out of that quality, those qualities, or whatever it is.
It's called the internet.
That's what it is.
No.
That's why God gave us internet porn, right? Who needs a love life?
But every time I look at it, it's different.
I know, right?
Never get tired.
There's a lot of websites.
Oh, that's why they're different. Because I can't remember that one URL. It's like, oh, is this it? No, it's not that. I like this one. Anyway, that's probably a good note to close on today.
Get off the browser.
We'll leave it on a high note.
Yeah.